This is my true scary story, and I hope nobody else has to ever experience this at all. I'm telling you this because I need to share this, but I'm going to change the names. The year was around 2009. Me, my friend Rufus, Jeremy, and Ava, and Christina, and her two siblings, Jenna, and her brother Devin, would always hang out in this old abandoned house every other Tuesday, and I would always make sure that the doors and windows were locked every time we leave. One night, me and Ava and Rufus decided to go to the abandoned house because our other friends in the group were busy that night. We never really go out at night since we were bored. We decided to tonight, and we went around 10 p.m. We would always chill upstairs playing card games or something, so that's what we did that night. A few hours passed and I hear noises coming from downstairs. Ava and Rufus had their headphones on as they were watching a movie on Rufus's portable DVD player, so I decided to go investigate. I told them I'd be right back, but as I started walking down the hallway and towards the steps, I felt it. I can't even describe it, but I felt it as I was being watched. And then, as I was on my way to the kitchen, I started to tremble with fear. The basement door was wide open, but the question was, who opened it? I know it wasn't any of my friends. The two that came with me were upstairs, and all my other friends were busy that night. Like an idiot, I yelled, "Hello, is anyone down there?" and got no answer. So I walked down the stairs, and every step I took, my heart kept pounding faster and faster. My palms started sweating. I make it down the steps and look around the whole basement, and I see nothing. I make my way back to the stairs. I take one last look. This part made me turn white. As I turn in the opposite direction, I hear breathing on the back of my neck. I turned around and saw a man staring at me with the creepiest look on his face, and his eyes were wide open, and he then gave me the most disturbing grin I ever seen. I screamed and ran up the steps, and as I was running, I could hear him crashing after me. I kept screaming, "Bloody murder!" and I managed to get away and locked the door behind me. But the man kept trying to knock the door down. Ava and Rufus came down and was getting ready to ask me what was going on, but as soon as they saw the door being pushed open violently, they ran out the door, and so did I. We ran as fast as we could back home, and 7 years have passed, and we never went back to that house. I still have nightmares about it this day. And also, creepy basement man, let's never meet again. This isn't a female's point of view. I was 16 at the time of this event. My close friend Sarah and I were driving back home from visiting my distant family in the West Michigan area. Back then, I resided in Portsmouth, Virginia. It was 11 p.m. out, and we were the only drivers on this road. Mind you, I've never taken this way before, as I wanted to skip the toll roads. This time, Sarah and I were so busy in conversation that we hadn't noticed coming upon an abandoned town somewhere in Pennsylvania. As we finally caught hold of our surroundings, I had a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. My friend caught on as she asked me if I was alright. "Yeah, I'm okay. This town is pretty creepy though," I reply. I wasn't lying. Those things such as old houses with boarded up windows and closed town stores. Even cars and trucks were left abandoned. It honestly looked like a scene off a horror movie. My friend and I stay silent. You could feel the drastic change in the air. It felt sinister. A couple of minutes of silence pass, my car starts to shake. I realize that we're running out of gas, and I totally forgot to stop miles back in a different town. "Damn it!" I yell, pulling over in front of yet another abandoned house. "What a great place to break down at." She laughs nervously. I nod, agreeing with her. Sarcastic comment. I take my phone out and call roadside assistance that my parents programmed into my phone. I didn't have any cell reception, so I got out the car and Sarah followed me. Now this is where things get really weird and scary. I'm completely focused on getting reception that I didn't realize that Sarah was staring completely ahead, looking terrified. She whispers my name before pulling on my shirt. The point's ahead. There's a man standing 10 feet from us. I follow her gaze, and she was right. There was a man. He was about 6'2", standing there in front of my car headlights. How can anyone be here? This place is a dead town. I don't breathe or speak. My heart is in my stomach, but finally Sarah speaks up. "Do you need anything?" she calls out. Right then, he tilts his head and smiles widely, scaring us even more. At this point, I'm so terrified I can't even move. He just stares at us smiling. "My dad's a cop, you freak," Sarah yells. That was a big mistake on our part. His expression turns to anger, and he starts to move towards us very fast. Our adrenaline kicks in and we run into my car and lock the doors. We look up and the man's gone. I was breathing so heavily, it was distracting me from the sound under the car. He was underneath my car. Sarah is screaming, tears flowing down her cheeks. I was trying to stay calm, praying to God for my phone to get service. Finally, I get 2 bars. I call the cops and alert them about what's happening. They respond with they'd be there in 20 minutes. By the time the phone call ends, the sound stopped. I was still on high alert, scared out of my mind. I'm hugged up against Sarah, us both crying. Her face goes emotionless as she looks behind me at the back window. My heart tells me not to look, but I can't help it. I look. I wish I hadn't. The man and 4 other men and 2 women. My heart dropped yet again. They all smiled. I realized they had bats and something else in their hands. But I start to hear police sirens and sigh in relief. Sarah and I look at the front and see the cop pulling up. I've never been so happy to see a police officer in my life. By the time he walked to my car, the people had disappeared, so I was shaken up. I couldn't even explain to the cops what happened. Sarah did for me. They offered to get gas, but instead, I begged them to bring us to a hotel in a very populated area and call my parents to get us. To this day, the cops never found those people or where they could have possibly came from. My guess was one of the abandoned buildings. I hope they block this town off someday. I never ever took the back ways again. And weird man and women of maybe a cult. Let's never meet again. And you scared the crap out of me that one time. But next time, I'll be prepared. This is a true story that happened to me when I was 15. Me and my friends, who I'll call Mike, Josh, and Mickey, were going to explore an abandoned building, which was in the middle of the woods. We checked out the front and back door, but they were locked. So we found a broken window about 4 feet high, so we climbed in. It smelled like crap, piss, and mold, and vomit in there. We took our flashlights because it happened to be at 6 o'clock in the winter. So it was really dark. We searched the middle floor and then went upstairs. There was 3 rooms. I searched one of the rooms. I peeked into the door and it was really dark. So then I did something really stupid. I pointed my flashlight into the room and I saw a person sitting on a couch. I screamed, "Holy effing crap," and ran past my friends and down the stairs and jumped out of the window, hurting my knees as I landed on the gravel and rocks. There was no glass in the window, so I didn't get any glass in me. My friends jumped out too and we ran and hid in the bushes. The man came through the door and yelled, "Don't you kids come back or I'll freaking kill you," and then went back inside. We were super scared and ran to the car and called home. Then we quickly drove off, telling them what we just did. The house has been demolished now, but this isn't the first time some crackhead has been in the house. Anyways, weird guy from the abandoned building, let's never meet again. Sorry if this story seems a bit rushed. The main reason is because I can hardly remember most of the details, but also because I'm on mobile. So this happened to me about 2 years ago. My friend Harrison lived in a rural area, which was different from me. I'd spent most of my life living in the city. We had spent about a quarter of the summer exploring my friend's mom's ranch and the surrounding areas. One day, she took us on a trip to a friend's farm. While she was talking to her and her friends, me and Harrison went off on a walk around the area. We came across a pretty small factory surrounded by a sea of needles that looked like it had been abandoned for a while. We entered through a kicked down door, and the first room there was a large garage area. By the way, this place stunk like crap. We went into the next room. Inside, there was hundreds of 1 meter by 1 meter concrete squares. After the story, I did a little research. I found out they used to pull maggots, as the place was a former maggot factory. After that, we went into the last room with 2 other chairs attached. In the corner of the room was a small radio smashed up with an axe next to it. This creeped me the hell out. I called Harrison over. No reply. He was gone. So I said there were 2 other rooms. Attached to both were large wooden doors. One slammed shut. I ran up to it. "Harrison, you in there?" I called. "Come on, man, stop messing with me." There was no sound from inside the door, so I bailed. I ran out of the factory screaming. Stood outside was Harrison. He told me he saw someone and ran, and 2 years later, I still don't know who was there. However, last month, me and Harrison returned as I wanted to film a Halloween special there for my YouTube channel. However, we were told not to go in because CCTV had been installed, because guess what? People had been living in there. Note: this is 2011 and I'm 18 now. The story may sound fake, but trust me, this is real. It was a cold summer night. I was in the 8th grade at the time, and I'm adult now though. I was hanging out at one of my friends' houses. We were going to pull all-nighter, so we drank a lot of energy drinks. So it was around 3 a.m. when one of my friends, there were 3 of us, suggested we should sneak out into the woods. We will call him Alex. I thought he was crazy, but with all this energy, I agreed to do it. So did the other kid. I'll call him Alan. We went through the front door and sneaked out into the woods. We were in a big part of the woods with open space everywhere, and lots of wild cows roam for some reason. We're 3 miles from Alex's house. It's around 4 a.m. at this point, and we're in the woods, and we're just talking, cracking jokes and stuff, and drinking soda. Not too far from where we were is an abandoned house. Alex is in the middle of a scary story, and I'm scared as hell, but in the middle of the story, we had heard a door open from the abandoned house, and Alan said to be quiet. We heard the unknown person's shoes step on the dead leaves. For a second, it sure did seem like a long time. Then it was quiet. No noise, no nothing, but out all of a sudden, we heard a cow get slaughtered, from what it sounded like at least. I almost crapped myself. Then the unknown person turns a flashlight and points it in our direction and starts sprinting towards us. We all got up and sprinted the hell out of it without looking back. But for some reason, I looked back, and there was a person maybe 100 inches from us, and that made me sprint even faster. Usually in horror movies, the person running trips, but in real life, what happened with me, the guy chasing us tripped. Kind of funny, but that did not make us stop. It made us go even faster. Let's call the unknown person the killer. The killer got up and went back to sprinting, but in front of us was a small rocky hill, and Alan, being the fastest, he jumps on the hill and climbs up it in like a second. Then Alex jumps up the hill and climbs it, but for some reason I can't climb it. The killer is closing in, and at this point, I start to think how good my life was, but Alex, being the hero he was, jumps down and helps me climb it. The killer climbs it too, and is still sprinting after that. We see the gate we went through to get to the woods, and we run through it because there is an opening. We get past it, and the killer stops at the gate. We look back and stop. It's a male, is just looking at us. And we start being cocky and start yelling at him and making fun of him. He puts a light on his face and makes this creepy smile. Then the light turns off. He starts to go through the gate, and then we took off. No looking back this time. We ran 3 miles to get to Alex's house. We snuck through Alex's window. We are so out of breath from running. The rest of the night, we just talked about what happened while watching some movies. We also look out the windows to make sure he didn't follow us. I never went back to Alex's house after that. Sometimes I dream about the night, and sometimes my friend never jumped down to help me, so the killer gets to me. It was probably one of the scariest nights in my whole life. And to the weird guy, let's never meet again.